Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Build a house on my property and then threatened to sue me. Enjoy losing everything." A neighbor of mine messed up when building a home and put his entire home well within my property, a large piece of land with two huge clearings connected to two roads, but separated by a large isthmus of trees. I did not notice because I had taken an 8-month vacation right after he started building. Huge property, I didn't go around and inspect it often, so I got a real estate lawyer and surveyors to confirm it was in my property. I was going to sell him that clearing for a good price until I went to talk to him, and he was the biggest a-hole I had ever met. He essentially told me that he's going to sue me for leading him on, despite the fact that I didn't know him nor have I met him before that day. His wife flipped my girlfriend and I as we were pulling out of their driveway. 4 months later, I file a lawsuit saying he must destroy the property or turn it over to me immediately. It would have cost him more to demolish it and return the site to original condition, so he signed the house over to me. He was still out for construction costs. I was living in a single wide with my girlfriend, and then I had a brand new 2,600 square feet house with all the hookups for water, electric and cable for free. I got the land for next to nothing and sold it for almost 50 times the value. So guys, the lesson or the moral of the story: don't build your home on someone else's property. I would say that entitled neighbor certainly learned his lesson. The next one is titled, "Nothing Like a Blizzard Revenge." First, a little background. This was a few years ago when I was a senior in college. I had moved into a townhouse with a disproportionately small open parking lot behind the row of townhomes. I'm talking gravel with space enough for perhaps 5 cars. You did require a pass, but our landlord had given out far too many for the lot size. And the next housing over had a fence leaning into the lot, so if a car did not pull forward far enough once parked, you could not drive around them to park. I drove a 4x4 SUV at the time, so I routinely parked partly in the grass to allow for more room for the smaller cars. This was also a troublesome lot when it snowed, and boy, did it snow up there, which is what begins my terror reign on my douche nozzle neighbors. Story time, bear with me, it's a long one. I had just finished up finals for the fall semester and was waiting on my aunt to drive to my complex from a couple states over so we could make the rest of the journey for the holidays to my parents' house together to save on gas money. This was when it was around $3.98 a gallon. However, a blizzard had started up and the weather was quickly becoming treacherous. I waited until the thick of it was mostly over before I went out with a shovel to clear a spot for my aunt's 2-wheel drive car in the lot so her car would be safe while we were away. I spent 2 hours in the freezing snow making room for her, while not law, obviously, generally the rule is, you dug it out, it is yours. Well, not long after I got a call from my mom saying my aunt had run out of gas because of traffic stopping with no stations in sight. So I loaded up 2 cans and headed out into the storm. It was now passing farther east and she was stuck in it. She was not far away, but it was 45 minutes just to get to her due to the condition of the roads. Minor tangent: if you are going downhill and the road is empty, you can pull the e-brake and have some fun sliding sideways. So I get to her and fill her up and we head back with her following my tracks. Fast forward, we are pulling up to my lot. I gave her my pass and I was just going to park on the street, and this a-hole has taken the spot I dug out. She was the only car there as everyone else had already gone home for the holidays. She could have parked anywhere else. She also had parked far enough back to block the entire rest of the lot. So my aunt parks on the street and I let her in the house to get warm. But I am pissed. What kind of jerk does this? Suddenly I realize I'm the only one with a shovel here and a dark idea begins to take shape in my mind. You want that spot so badly? Fine, take it. It's yours forever. I grabbed my shovel, it is dark by now, and head outside. I carefully shovel all of the snow I had dug out back around their car. For good measure, I added snow from around most of the rest of the lot. I buried their entire car up over the trunk and hood. I feel accomplished and over the cover of darkness, take my shovel back inside and wait for the morning. The next day, I hear angry cursing and rush to my kitchen window to look out back. My neighbor is furiously trying to get in their car and then trying to back out of their snow hell. I make coffee and zip it, giggling, while they realize they will have to dig their car out, and since they have no shovel, they have to do it with their hands. Never take a spot someone else worked hard to shovel out. They eventually did get free and I made a new shovel space right away for my aunt. We had a lovely holiday with my parents where there was no snow after. And ripe stars, if you ever had any outrageous snow shoveling moments with your neighbor, then please don't forget to share these stories in the comments. In addition, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe even post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled Dandelions Will Be Your Downfall. This is my husband's story from when he was a kid. We will call him DH, dear husband, and my sister-in-law SIL. When DH and SIL were growing up, their next door neighbor was a cranky old man. As they always are, we will call him COM. Now, COM loved his lawn. He was an avid golfer and he planted his lawn with some fancy golf course grass, even though his lawn was less than half an acre in size. And every summer when the dandelions started to grow, COM would call a lawn care service to basically tear up his lawn and get rid of those golden yellow bastards. It would be a cold day in hell before COM would let a single dandelion go to seed on his verdant green domain. Since COM is a cranky old man, anytime something went wrong with his house or his car or his lawn, he would blame it on my husband and sister-in-law.
My garage door has a dent in it. It must have been those damn neighbor kids. There's a stain on my siding that wasn't there yesterday. Must have been those damn neighbor kids.
That kind of thing. He would yell at my husband's parents, who would apologize and then tell my husband and sister-in-law to stay out of COM's way for a bit, but they knew COM was full of it. After a particularly nasty encounter with COM when my husband was 11, he and my sister-in-law hatched a plan. They waited for the summer for the lawn care service to come and ripped the lawn yet again. Then, in the dark of the night, my husband and sister-in-law went all over the neighborhood collecting as many buckets of white puffballs of dandelions gone to seed as they could. And then they threw them all over COM's lawn. 3 weeks later, COM's beautiful golf course grass was covered in a blanket of golden revenge. And the next one is titled, Leave half of your living room in the hallway for weeks? How about I trash your place? So, I pay good money for a very nice apartment. One of the rules here is that you cannot leave trash and items you want to get rid of in the hallway. This is for 3 reasons. Number 1, it is technically a luxury apartment and no one wants to see the hallways cluttered up. Number 2, I live in an area where cockroaches invade easily and leaving garbage laying around is a good way to attract them. Number 3, it's a fire hazard. There is a neighbor a couple doors over who once left a very large sofa along with several storage bins and a flat screen TV all piled up in the hall. Now, I'm not a complete a-hole, and if it was just for a few days because you are moving or whatever, fine, no problem. However, after it being there for a week, I called the office to complain. Throughout the week, more stuff was added to the pile and you could barely get through the hallway anymore. This went on for 3 weeks. After several complaints, apartment management told me they were applying fines to this lady's account every day the stuff was left there, and that is all they could do. Finally, one day it was all gone. Problem solved, or so I thought. A few days later, I notice a bag of smelly garbage and an old dresser drawer outside the same apartment. Again, I give her the benefit of the doubt, maybe she's on her way out and will take it with her. Day number 2, trash and drawer still there. Day number 3, no change. End of day number 3, F this a-hole. I took the drawer and leaned it against her door so it fell inside when she opened the door. The top of her garbage was also not tied up, so I gave it a little shove, letting it spill its putrid contents on her doormat. I passed by a few hours later and someone must have been on the same page as me because the garbage was further kicked all over the hallway. Later on that day, I am coming back from walking my dog and I hear cussing and swearing and a door slam. It was her. She was pissed she had to clean the mess. All of this was a few months ago. Nothing has been left in the hallway since. I think she finally learned her lesson. And Ripe Stars, I am curious, have you ever had to teach a neighbor a lesson? And if so, what have you done? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, Threaten My Home? No, that is not going to happen. About 20 years ago, the ex and I bought a house. The financing was done through an owner contract. We were not in love with that, but we really liked the house. There was an escrow company that took our money and gave it to the people we bought from and some to the old guy they bought it from. He was a peach too, we will talk about him later. The folks we bought the place from lived in Montana. Any contact between us was supposed to be by registered mail, but the wife would call us every so often just to shoot the crap. Neighborhood gossip and such, no biggie. We got along with the neighbors well, so I thought. The dude next to us, he was in his early 80s, commented on why we didn't keep the yard up to his standards. Yeah, it happens, but we thought we were still friendly with them. So I am sitting at home about 8 AM on a workday that I had taken off, minding my own business. And then the phone rings. It is the wife of the folks we bought from, starts pretty typical, but quickly launches into all the phone calls they have gotten from all of our neighbors falling about us falling down on the yard work. Yeah, it was true, life gets in the way. Her, well, the contract says you have to keep things up or we can foreclose. We are thinking of coming over this week to get the keys back from you. Me, I'm sorry, we've been busy, other priorities right now. I'm sort of embarrassed, so I'm trying just to be apologetic and reasonable. Her, well, all the neighbors have been calling about your yard. Me, I know which neighbor you're talking about. Her, well, it is not crabby old neighbor, C-O-N. Me, thanks for confirming it was him. Well, the tulips in that yard were planted by my dead sister who brought the bulbs back from Holland. Me, I can dig them up and send them to you. Her, well, the contract says, I'm digging out the contract. It talks about keeping the place sanitary, nothing to do with the lawn not being mowed for 2 weeks. Me, the contract says dick about the yard. Her, well, we are coming over this week to get the keys. Me, no court, no nothing, just show up and expect me to hand over the keys and walk away? Her, yep. Me, not happening. Here's why. Number 1, you're getting nothing without going to court. We have rights and you showing up and taking the keys, well, we have a right to that not happening. We will see you in court. Number 2, you're on notice that we don't want you on our property. You are trespassed and I will call the law. Number 3, the contract also says that we can only contact by registered mail. And she hung up. I worry, my day off was pretty much ruined, but something kept popping into the evil side of my head. Her dead sister's tulips from Holland, they had just bloomed. My first thought was to dig them up, throwing them in the compost and taking a picture of them to send, but I liked our tulips. So go to the Walmart and pick up some tulip bulbs. Bring them home, stump them, shove them into a Ziploc, put them in a padded envelope and send them to Montana. I also added a note saying F you to everything and see you in court. A few days later, CON's wife caught me at the mailbox and told me how cruel I was for digging up the previous owner's dead sister's tulips, that the previous owner had called CON's wife all crying. I told her that the gal had threatened my home and that I take that very seriously and that she should tell CON how seriously I take it. I never heard from the previous owner again. CON and wife moved away about a year later. We had all sorts of fun in that year, that's a different story. And the last one is titled, Threaten My Dog, Curse at My Wife? Okay, best of luck with that car. My wife and I had some neighbors who decided to take it upon themselves to be proper jerks. Their list of grievances include parking directly in front of our townhome. For non-US people, a townhome is essentially a house that is in an apartment complex. So houses right next to one another, each home has a parking spot directly in front of its door and then an extra space in between. Jerk-faced neighbor has 3 cars, only 2 of which work, and keeps the broken one in front of his house at all times. He needs somewhere to park his other car, so instead of doing it 10 or so feet away, he chooses to do so directly in front of our apartment. Not super bad, except for the fact that it is a giant truck with Confederate flat bumper stickers and a lift. It was miserably awkward and usually parked on the curb so as to make it inconvenient to even walk off our porch. He and his wife, more on her in a second, were leaving their house when my dog ran over to them. He had just darted out the front door and ran in their general direction. They saw him, hopped in the car and backed out quickly, knowing he was near their wheels. When I grabbed him, I got the middle finger. Classy as hell. One day, while backing his wretched pickup truck into the spot in front of our house, my wife comes home. She watches him back up and pull forward 2 to 3 times trying to park his house on wheels. Of note, he blocks the path, so he really has no choice but to wait and then she can pass him. After he finally parks, she drives by him and he takes the opportunity to ask,
"Do we have a damn problem? You're staring me down like we have a problem."
She just ignores him and walks into the house. Also of note, he's a scraggly redneck. I'm not big and tough. This is not an "I'm a badass" or anything threat. I don't make any absurd threats and the lawn claps or things like that. We just shut the door and laugh, but it is a bit much. So those are obnoxious, but largely things we can ignore. The deal breaker for us was when I received some mail. I open it because we have been expecting updated licenses. As having just moved, it is not for us, it is his wife's nursing license. That could cause all sorts of problems for them. Instead, I have our daughter take it over and explain that we opened it thinking it was our license. Cue trashy husband asking a 10-year-old if she stole their mail and telling her he would call the cops. That will do. For the petty revenge, they have 3 cars, the busted one that doesn't run, the giant redneck one and his work car, which has no backdoor handle on the driver's side. The hole doesn't go all the way through, it just reaches into the door itself. That became my new repository for really anything I felt would amuse me. Dog crap? Sure, I will pick it up and bag it. Cleaning out the fridge? Those plums can go there. Cleaning out the freezer? Bagged frozen tilapia also goes there just fine. Frozen shrimp? Sure. Old potato soup is a good fit as well. Hell, let's add a whole bag of old lentils that we don't want. The aftermath? Nothing for quite a while, easily 5 weeks or so, and then one night I get home and walk by and happen to notice the windows are down in the car. That strikes me as a little odd at the time. We live in Florida and everyone probably wants to use AC. Next night the same deal. Again, it never really dawns on me, and then a day or so later a knock on the door. It is the cops. Next door neighbor called them and accused us of screwing with him. I look out behind the cop and see redneck guy having taken the inside of the door off with an absolute stew of stuff around his feet. The smell then hit me. Well worth it. Sorry officer, but I don't have time for pranks with redneck idiots. No sir, I'm a professor, I'm not really about prank wars. A quick, well, if you see anyone around his car, please let him know so we don't have a repeat of this. And the cop was on his way. Revenge never smelled so sweet. And sadly, Ripe Stars, we have already reached the end of the video. However, as usual, if you cannot get enough of my videos, I would suggest you to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will show up very soon on the left side of the screen. In addition, please don't forget to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more exclusive Reddit content. Mainly, at least at the moment, just no mother-in-law videos. In addition guys, I would just like to say we are super close to 50,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. It would be a dream come true to finally reach 50k. Thank you so much in advance and I hope to see you again tomorrow.